الحمد لله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون. الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق. نعم. So yeah, we were completing the explanation of those ahadith. نعم. Concerning الوضوء وولوغ الكلب في الإناء, making wudu, and a dog licking from the vessel. And we talked about if the fact the person does not have dirt or doesn't have water, what does he do in that state? And meaning he has either one or the other. Now, so this is a point, I mistakenly said that, but this is a point that needs to be talked about also. So what happens if he has neither? The dog licked from the vessel, he has neither water nor dirt. And we're supposed to use both. And if you don't have both, you use one. And he has neither water nor dirt. Unless it's necessity. And we talked about what necessity is. Necessity is something that you would die without it, or be injured severely without it. This is a necessity. A need is something that would make you extremely difficult if you didn't have it, and like that. So unless using the vessel was a necessity, then he would just avoid it until he was able to find both or one of the two concerning a vessel that a dog has licked out of, because of the Prophet's instructions that we should wipe it out 7 times. The first being with dirt, and then another narration 7 times, and the 8th time being with dirt in order to clean the vessel. So if you have neither, leave it off completely. And that's the same thing with wudu. And we'll get into that as we're going into the chapter of wudu. That if a person has neither dust or Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Dakira and Sister Samiha. So if the person has neither water nor dust, this doesn't suffice. Paint, wiping on walls and all of that doesn't suffice. You pray how you are. You pray how you are. And this is a very important principle when it concerns the awamir. The orders, the commands are always connected to ability. So anytime the ability is taken away, إذا تسلب القدرة أو استطاعة فما عليك مسؤولية. So anytime that ability is taken away from you, then responsibility likewise is taken away from you. We said that what? Responsibility only applies to someone that 2 things have to meet. What are those 2 things? Who remembers? It's 2 things that have to come together in order for a person to be held responsible. Shar'an. In this. Nah.
Opportunity and ability.
Nah. Nah. So Abdul Haq and Abu Rumay said it. Ability and opportunity. Anytime either one of these is taken away, the person either he doesn't have the ability or he doesn't have the opportunity. If one or both of them are missing, then there's no responsibility upon the individual. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah, according to your ability, according to your actual ability. And I mentioned before that ayah in Surah Al-Taghabun, fear Allah according to your ability, it seems in its wording like a concession, it's like a ruqsa. But in reality, it's like a tahdeed. It's almost like a challenge or a warning. Why? Because it's not like when we deal with each other. It's not like when Abdul Haq, calls me and says, listen, I need you. I got a flat, or I ran out of gas and I need you to come down. I can't right now. When I can, I don't want to. It's going to be difficult. I actually can do it. So we say, I can. Allah knows our actual ability. So when he said, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, now you're talking about that command came from the one who knows your actual ability. That you can't say, oh, I couldn't. You're going to be questioned about the actual ability. The actual ability Allah has given you, because to deny having ability while having it is to deny a favor that Allah has given you. To deny ability while having it is to deny a favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In every favor, kullu ni'mah wajib laha shukr. And every favor is obligatory for us to thank Allah. So if a person is denying the favor, how is he thanking Allah about the favor? If he's saying it doesn't exist, I can, and he actually can, then he's denying the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's also lying to himself, because he can try to lie to Allah, but he can't lie to Allah because Allah knows, he knows the secrets and that which is hidden. نعم. عن حمران مولى عثمان بن عفان رضي الله عنه أنه رأى عثمان دعا بوضوء فأفرغ على يديه من إنائه فغسلهما 3 مرات ثم أدخل يمينه في الوضوء ثم تمضمض واستنشق واستثمر واستنثر ثم غسل وجهه. This hadith is mistranslated, and I don't know if it's been corrected in the Dar es-Salam translation of Sahih al-Bukhari. Look at this tartib when you see it in Arabic. He said, فَغَسَلَهُمَا. He said, دَعَ بِوُضُوءٍ, meaning the water for wudu. And this is uslub al-istighraq in the Arabic language, is like something that encompasses the thing. So he called the water for wudu, because the asl for wudu is using water. So he said, فَدَعَ بِوُضُوءٍ. He called for the water. فَأَفْرَغَ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ مِنْ إِنَائِهِ. So he poured the water on his hands from his vessel. فَغَسَلَهُمَا 3 مرات. So he washed both of his hands 3 times. ثُمَّ أَدْخَلَ يَمِينَهُ فِي الْوُضُوء. And then he put his right hand in it. Right? ثُمَّ فَمَضْمَضَ وَاسْتَنْشَقَ وَاسْتَنْثَرَ. And then after that, he rinsed his mouth out, put the water in his nose, and blew it out. Istinthar. Now, jazakallah khair. ثم غسل وجهه. Then he washed his face. 3. ويديه إلى المرفقين. 3. In his hands to his elbow. In the translation, it said that he washed his hands 3 times. Then he rinsed his mouth and his nose. Then he washed his face. And then in the translation said, and then he washed his hands to his wrist. His wrist. The first time Uthman radiallahu anhu washed his hands was not part of wudu. That's the sunnah. He just was cleaning his hands. So when it said, da'a bi wudu'in, right? And then he afraga ala yadayhi. He poured the water out on his hands. فَغَسَلَهُمَا 3 مرات. And washed both of them 3 times. This was just the sunnah of cleaning your hands before even making wudu. Taken from what? The sunnah of making wudu before Salat al-Fajr. Right? The Prophet ﷺ ordered, the hadith, we went to the hadith, he said, wash both of your hands. لأن أحدكم لا يعلم أين باتت يداه. He does, because one of you doesn't know where his 2 hands were sleeping at. So it's wajib qabla wudu al-fajr. And sunnah, and it's the sunnah before any other wudu, to wash the person's hands 3 times before actually beginning wudu. And that 3 times is just to the wrist. It's not all the way up here. So a person washes his hands 3 times like that. That's not wudu. So a person that does this, he cannot count this from his wudu, because what he does after that, if he doesn't wash his hands from the fingertip to the elbow after that, he doesn't have wudu. And this is what happened in that translation. Many people were washing their hands 3 times, washing their nose and mouth, and then they would wash their hands and then not wash all the way up to the wrist. That first washing the hands has nothing to do with wudu. So this is the hand in wudu. And shar'an, the hand in wudu is here, from here.
So
وعليكم السلام.
yeah, I have a question about that. If I can ask questions right now.
نعم تفضل جاوب.
So, so I the understanding I've seen a lot of people do from this is when they make wudu, because they wash their hands the first three times, right? In the beginning,
Mhm.
which you
نعم.
said is sunnah,
Mhm.
they wash from their wrist up to their elbow and skip their hand.
Yes. Yeah. That's how it goes. You're right. Jazakallah khair. This
They
is what I meant
skip.
to say.
They
Yeah.
wash their. They
Yeah.
usually wash.
They wash their three
They don't
hands.
skip their whole elbow, but they go
Nah.
from the
They
wrist
go
up to
from
elbow.
the
They don't
wrist
even
to
go
the
on
elbow.
top of the
Nah.
hand.
The way he
Okay.
just
Okay.
described it. Nah. Jazakallah khair.
Okay.
This is the one where you do not have a wudu. This is what I was trying to say. Jazakallah khair,
Okay.
Dawood.
Oh
Yeah.
well, yeah.
So they
So
wash
so
their
it's
hands the first three times, like Uthman radiallahu anhu did. And then after that, after they make another istinjar, what do? They start from here. That's what I meant to say. Nah, jazakallah khair. And then they wash from their wrist to their elbow. They don't have wudu. They don't have wudu. Nah. So it's a must to wash from the fingertips to the elbows. ثم نعم عفوا وجهه ثلاث. Then he washed his face three times. ويديه إلى المرفقين ثلاثا. ثم مسح برأسه. ثم غسل كلتا رجليه ثلاثا. And this hadith is clear, a refutation for those who try to misinterpret the ayat in Surah Al-Ma'idah. When they said الرجلين معطوفتان على الرأس, right? They said in Surah Al-Ma'idah when Allah Ta'ala said, then wipe your heads. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْن. So they said, what? Al-Ma'tuf? They said, Allah said, wipe your head and your feet to your ankles. So they said that the conjunction connects the head with the feet. So just like the feet is wiped, just like the head is wiped, the feet is wiped. And they based it off the ayat, and they're using the lugha. Number one, لا أحد يستدرك على الله سبحانه وتعالى. Nobody tries to find it like if Allah slipped up or forgot. That's number one. Number two, the قواعد اللغة العربية لم تحدث إلا بعد نزول القرآن. كان العرب يتكلمون بالعربية بطريقة طبيعية بغير قواعد. فهذه قواعد أتت بعد القرآن ليس قبل القرآن، فهي لا تصحي القرآن، فالقرآن يصحي القواعد العربية. The rules of Arabic didn't come until what? After the Quran was revealed. The Arab used to speak Arabic naturally. It was just their language. But it was no rules, this should go this, and it goes like that. So those rules were put together in order to make sure that people understood the Quran and recited the Quran correctly. So those rules don't correct the Quran, rather the Quran corrects those rules. Those rules has to come from the Quran. So if you find a qaida Arabiya, a Arabic rule, rather being grammar, or sarf, or anything other than that, and it doesn't match with something in the Quran, the rule is wrong. The rule is wrong. You say, whoa, something's wrong with that rule because the Quran says this. That's how it goes. It doesn't say, whoa, something wrong with this ayah because the rule says, Nahu says, no. There was no Qawaid al-Nahwiyya before the Quran was revealed. So the Quran is the hujjah on the rules of Arabic and not the other way around. Number three, that was number two, right? Number three, that understanding. وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلِكُمْ. Because in the ayah, في قراءة عاصم and Hafs والشعبة, it's وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ معطوف على وجوهكم. Right? So in the recitation of Imam Asim, it has a fatha. So it's following the face. Wash your faces. Wash your feet. It's connected. The face and feet are connected, and that's why it's recited with a fatha, because it is the object of the action. This is in Arabic grammar. The noun that is the objects of the action, the singular noun, that's the object of the action, gets a fatha. Right? But if it comes after a preposition, it gets a kasra. Right? If the noun comes after a preposition, so he said, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِ كسرة بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ. because that goes back to they say لكن في القواعد النحوية الاسم تكون معطوف على أقرب اسم لها. Right? That in the rules of grammar, that the noun will be conjuncted with the closest noun to it. And the closest noun to the feet was the head. Like I said before, rule number one, you're not going to try to say, oh, Allah slipped up, Allah made a mistake. Rule number two, the rules of the Arabic language, they are taken from the Quran, and the Quran wasn't taken from the rules of Arabic because those rules didn't exist until after the Quran didn't exist, right? And now that understanding is correct, but only in one condition. Only in one condition. That those who say, well, arjulikum with a kasra, that wipe over your feet because it's following the head. Wamsahu bi ru'usikum wa arjulikum with a kasra ila al-ka'bayn. That's if the person is wearing al-khuf, he's wearing socks. So then he wipes over the socks. But if the person is not wiping over socks, then the feet are to be washed, and this is when is recited with fatha and not with kasra. So that's the condition of understanding that. المسح المسح على الخفين. نعم الخفين. إذا ثم غسل وجهه ثلاثا ويديه إلى المرفقين ثلاثا ثم مسح برأسه ثم غسل كلتا رجليه. عفوا غسل نعم كلتا رجليه wash both of feet ثلاثا. This is عثمان. This is عثمان. ثم قال رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم توضأ نحو وضوء هذا. He said, and I saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam make a wudu like this wudu that I just made. The Prophet did this, right? Now, وقال من توضأ نحو وضوء هذا ثم صلى ركعتين. هنا المشكلة. This is the problem now. He said, then the Prophet said, whoever made wudu like my wudu, this wudu that I just made, and then pray 2 rak'at. 2 rak'at. The hard part comes after the praying 2 rak'at within them. He said, لا يحدث فيهما نفسه. لا إله إلا الله. That's the problem. He prays 2 rak'at in which he's not distracted by himself. Totally focused. Only on ibadah. For 2 whole rak'at. Al-Fatiha, takbir, ruku', rising from ruku', sujood, raising, back up. Until the taslim, you're not thinking about nothing but the salah. Allahu Akbar. Allah yakun fi awnina. May Allah aid us. He didn't ask for 12. He didn't ask for 4. He just asked for 2 rak'ah. If you make this wudu, wash your hands, clean them off, begin your wudu. All right? Rinse your mouth out your nose, wash your face 3 times, hands to the elbows, wipe over your head, your feet 3 times, and then pray 2 rak'ah. So, 2. And don't think about anything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what you're saying in the Quran, what you're saying in ruku', what you're saying in sujood, what you're saying rising from ruku'. That's it. That's the only thing that's on your mind. Ibadah for 2 rak'ah. 2 rak'ah. What happened? He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, غفر الله له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Allah Ta'ala will forgive whatever proceeded from his sins. La ilaha illallah. In another narration, and maybe the Sheikh is going to bring it here, the Prophet ﷺ said, if he prayed that, then nothing stands between him and Jannah except death. If he prayed those 2 rak'at after making that wudu and didn't think about anything but the ibadah he was doing, nothing is between him and Jannah. It's just, he's not dead. If he died after doing that, he's from the people of Jannah. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. Well, this is sahlul mumtani'. This is the most easy, the easiest difficult thing. It's easy and difficult at the same time. Now, عن عمر بن يحيى المازني عن أبيه قال شهدت عمر من الخطاب عمر ابن أبي الحسن سأل عبد الله ابن زيد عن وضوء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فدعا بي بالطور من ماء فتوضأ له وضوء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأكفأ على يديه من التور فغسل يديه 3 ثم أدخل يديه في التور نعم في الثوب فمضمض واستنشق واستنثر ثلاثا. نعم بثلاث نعم بثلاث غرفات، ثم أدخل يديه في الثوب فغسل وجهه. نعم ثلاث، ثم أدخل يده فغسلهما مرتين إلى مرفقين، ثم أدخل يديه فمسح بهما رأسه فأقبل بهما وأدبر مرة واحدة، ثم غسل رجليه. وفي رواية بدأ بمقدم رأسه حتى ذهب بهما إلى قفاه، ثم ردهما حتى رجع إلى المكان الذي بدأ منه. نعم. He said that who was it? It was Amr ibn Abil Hassan. He asked Abdullah ibn Zayd about the wudu of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he called for a bucket of water, or a container of water. For them, a wudu like the wudu of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he poured water from the bucket on both of his hands and washed them 3 times. Then he entered them. Into the bucket, and then he made he rinsed his mouth and he rinsed his nose. Then he entered his hand into the bucket. Internet was unstable. And then he entered his hands into the bucket. So he washed them. So he washed his face 3 times. Then he entered his hand and he washed them twice. And then up into the elbow twice. Then he entered and then he wiped over his head. And then he went, now, he went back and forth 1 time. Then he washed both of his feet. And in another narration, it said he began with the beginning of his head, and then he went back and then came back forward until he got all the way to his neck, and then he came back to where he began. Now, to the place in which he began. Now. وفي رواية آتانا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فأخرجنا له ماء في التور في الصفر. No, that's a wording of another hadith. Then we have the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha. He said, but Tor is the definition of Tor, shibhu, tost. Tost. Would you translate tost? Oh, it's like okay. Bucket, a little container. Yeah, bucket, a container. نعم. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يعجبه التيمم في تنعله نعم وترجله وطوره وفي شأنه كله. يعني التيمم meaning beginning with the right. That the Prophet used to like beginning with the right. في تنعله, putting on his feet. وترجله, walking. وطوره, in his purification and in all of his affairs. The reason that's being brought is because the argument in fiqh, is it obligatory to begin with the right? So Ibn Qudama, he's bringing this to show that the Prophet used to begin with the right in all of the things that was considered good. Now, النعيم ابن مجمر عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال إن أمتي يدعون يوم القيامة غراء محجلين من آثار الوضوء فمن استطاع منكم أن يطل قرته فليفعل. He said that my ummah يوم القيامة will be called out because of the shining places on their body from making wudu. This will be the sign of the ummah of Muhammad. The places on their body, face, head, feet, arms, all of this will be shining because of wudu. He says, so anyone who wants to extend anyone who wants to extend his shine, then he should do that by increasing the wudu. And one time Abu Huraira, this is going to bring the Sheikh going to bring that. One time Abu Huraira, one of the Sahaba walked in on him and he was making wudu. And he wiped his hand all the way up to his shoulder. And he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I didn't know you were there. If I knew you were there, I wouldn't have." This is his private practice. I'm not calling anybody to do it, but this was his understanding of the hadith. He said, and so whoever wants to increase his shine, then he increased where he puts the water. So Abu Hurairah, he was doing wudu, he's a private, and somebody walked in, he didn't hear them, so he's washing his hands. So when he started washing his hands, he went all the way up to the shoulder. He came and said, "What? SubhanAllah, I didn't know you were there. I would have never did that if I saw you there." So in the ulama call this fiqh sahabi. This is the understanding of a companion. But alayhi dalil. Alayhi dalil lahu. But it shouldn't be taken as a custom. It shouldn't be taught as the manner of wudu. It's just an encouragement and it's not part of wudu. If somebody was to increase it, then this hadith proves that la hadith yunkir. But some of the ulama say it doesn't mean to increase the places. It means to increase in salah. Because the more you pray, the more you're going to make wudu. So I say, no, it doesn't mean increase. That's fiqh sahaba. That's the understanding of Abi Hurairah. However, this is not something that the companions were all agreed upon. So Abu Hurairah understood it to increase your shine, to increase where you put the water. And other than him said, no, it doesn't mean increase where you put the water. If you're going to use water in order to make wudu, if you want to increase that, increasing your prayers, you're going to increase it making wudu, and your shine is going to increase because of that. Nah, nah. Subhanallah. And the qaida is what? إذا دخل الاحتمال قتل الاستدلال. Once possibilities come into equation, then everybody's position is equal. It's equal because of that. And this is the last hadith we'll take. وفي لفظ مسلم رأيت أبا هريرة يتوضأ فغسل وجهه ويديه حتى كاد now here it is now حتى كاد يبلغ منكبيه يبلغ المنكبين ثم غسل رجليه حتى رفع إلى ساقيه نعم ثم قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أمتي يدعون يوم القيامة يدعون يوم القيامة قراء محجلين من أثر الوضوء فمن استطاع منكم أن يطيل غرته وتحجيله فليفعل. So he said, I saw in another narration Abu Hurairah making wudu. This is the one. And he washed his face. And he washed his hands until he reached his shoulders. And then he washed his feet until he went up to his shins. Until he went up his shins. And this is not the narration, but he said, I didn't see you. But this is one of the narrations. He said, I heard the Prophet. When he said, what are you doing? He said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ say that my ummah will be called by the shining places of wudu on the day of judgment. So whoever wants to increase his shine, then he should do so. Because the hadith that فَلْيَفْعَلْ, and the lamb is called lam al-amr. We talked about this before, the lamb of command. So he said, فَلْيَفْعَلْ, then do it. So it's like a command, do it. So now how do you do it? Do you do it like Abu Hurairah did it, going up to your shoulders and to your shins? Or do you do it like the other said, by increasing in prayers? And both of them have a position and should be done. No. Now, وفي لفظ لمسلم سمعت خليلي يقول تبلغ الحلية من المؤمن حيث يبلغ الوضوء. That the adornment, al-hilya is like adornment. It's like jewels and jewelry and like that. But hilya, تبلغ الحلية من المؤمن حيث يبلغ الوضوء. That the beautification and the adornment of the Muslim reaches wherever his wudu reaches. Subhanallah. So it's هذا يساند ما كان عليه Abu Hurairah رضي الله عنه. Now, so these are the ahadith that are brought in this chapter, giving the details of wudu, the tartib, and all of that. And right now, the Sheikh is not mentioning the basmalah, but we're going to get into all of that, inshallah, in the class next week, and the explanation of that, inshallah, ta'ala, next week. But these are the ahadith. And this book, once again, is Umdatul Ahkaam, and it's a book of fiqh based on Walaikum Assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ustaz Sayyid. Now, it's a book of fiqh but it's bringing hadith in every chapter. And the good part about this, we talked about this before, the difference between, who remembers, the difference between studying fiqh ala madhab al-fuqaha and studying fiqh ala madhab of ahlul hadith. What's the difference?
The first one, you come to the one who has done the research, you come to their conclusion.
Nah.
Al hadith, you get the chain of narrations.
Nah. Nah. So this is one of the most basic differences. It's the same thing. However, the alim, Imam Ahmed, Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifah, they did the work for you. So you get the conclusion. These hadith, they're not going to mention. They're going to mention the conclusion. So you should do this in wudu. You should do that in wudu. And this is why you open up the books of fiqh and Shafi'i, Matan Abi Shuja', and other than that, Al-Akhdari fi Madhab al-Maliki and like that. Then you're going to get basically the finished product. The scholar, he did the work, he did like that, and he's going to give you his conclusion. That's the madhab. It's wajib. It's mustahab. It's makruh. It's like that. That's after he did it. This way, so what happens is that you'll end up being حافظ لأقوال العلماء. You're going to know what the ulama said. Like قال الشافعي, قال أحمد, قال أبو حنيفة. You're going to be حافظ up with the ulama said. In the madhab of Ahl Hadith, they do the same thing. However, they give you the text that they base their opinion on first. This is why we just read through all of the text. After that, we're going to get the explanation. So then after that, you're going to get. So what happens is this: you're going to end up hafidly what? Wa ala nabi. Because that he gave you what the Prophet did first, but the Sahaba you're going to get that first. So you're going to say, "Qala Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ummati yud'auna wa muhajilin yawm al-qiyamah." So that's going to be in your mind. So you're going to be able to say, "No, the Prophet said this. The Prophet said that." So in one, you're going to be hafiz li aqwal al-ulama wal fuqaha, and the other one you're going to be hafiz li aqwal al-nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وهذا المفضل. هذا المفضل. Nah. So we'll stop here. Is there any statements or questions about anything that we said? We'll take them now. If not, then we'll just stop here until next week for this particular class anyway. We have another class, Arba'in Nawawi on Saturday, inshallah.
Question, ya Sheikh, inshallah.
Naam, faddal. Ustaz Musa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Alaikum salam.
Sheikh, if someone put the shoes on, but he had wudu before he put his shoes on, and then while he has wudu and put his shoes on, then after he broke his wudu, and then he make wudu again and wipe over the shoes. Now he still have his wudu, and then later on he took his shoes off. So does he have to make wudu again or no? Or he can pray?
No. Nothing breaks wudu except kharij an sabilain. That nothing can break your wudu except something that comes out of the private parts. Other than that, nothing can. Even if, let's say, najis was to fall on the individual, something impure, it still wouldn't break his wudu. Nothing outside of you can break your wudu. So if the person made his wudu before he put his socks on, and then after that he put his shoes, then the shoes are following the socks. So the shoes are following behind the socks. So the shoes only get to be wiped over because they are on top of the socks. Other than that, shoes themselves, unless they cover every part that the person will make wudu on, like boots or something like that. But if the shoes are regular shoes that come below the ankles or sandals and the person doesn't have socks on, he cannot wipe over those kind of shoes. The shoes have to cover in the thing that's agreed about, because the thickness and the material, this is where the ikhtilaf is at about wiping over. But the thing that all of the madhahib, all of the ulama, all of the fuqaha, they agree about that, it has to cover the place where you would have to wash when making wudu. Whatever you have on your feet, no matter what material is made out of, it has to cover everything. Then after that, after they agreed on that, then they differed on, does it have to be leather? Or does it have to be very thick? Can it be see-through and all those things? That's a different conversation now. But yes, he can wipe off his shoes.
Okay. Now, if he can wipe off his shoes and then he still have wudu, but then later on, he didn't break his wudu, but he took his shoes off. Can he pray? Can he pray without the shoes?
Yes, he doesn't have to pray with them on. Even let's go further. Let's say if he wiped over his socks,
right,
and he took his socks off, then he still has wudu, even if he removes his socks.
Okay.
Yeah, he still has wudu.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan.
Anyway, yeah.
How
long
it will go?
a resident 24 hours, and the 24 hours begins. The correct position is that the 24 hours for the resident begins from the first wiping. Not, it doesn't begin when you put them on, because it's called mas'alat masah al khuffayn. It's called the issue of wiping over. So it's not called the issue of wearing. It's not mas'alat labs al khuffayn. It's not the issue of wearing the two socks. It's the issue of wiping over the two socks. So the 24-hour period for the resident and 3 days for the traveler. 3 days for the traveler, it begins after the first wipe. So let's say a person prayed Fajr, he took a shower when he had to go on the journey, and he put on his socks after making wudu and everything. He put on his socks, he went out for Salat al-Fajr, prayed Salat al-Fajr. And before Salat al-Wudu, he went into the bathroom, he broke his wudu, and now he came out. So for Salat al-Dhuhr, he made masah al-khaffayn for Dhuhr. So now his 24 hours begins now. He has until Dhuhr tomorrow. And if he's a traveler, he has the 3 days until the Dhuhr of the third day. Nah.
Jazakallah.
Anyway, yeah. You were about to say something.
Is there proof for wiping over the socks, over the feet, at the same time?
Nah, that's the athar of Ali radiallahu anhu. He said, لو كان الدين بالعقل لكان مسح أسفل الخف أولى من أعلاه. He said, if the deen was based on intellect, then wiping the bottom of the socks would make more sense than wiping the top of the socks. لكني رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يمسح على أعلاهما. He said, but I saw the Prophet wipe on the top of his socks. So like that. Now, and it's one wiping like that based on the hadith of Ali, inshallah ta'ala. And for more detail, you can look in Tirmidhi's Shama'il Muhammadiyya, the descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ. And he started with his character. Then he started with his physical appearance and like that, and even got into his ibadah by Imam Tirmidhi, the descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ and like that. Or Sifatul Wudu and Nabi, or the description of the wudu of the Prophet ﷺ, even in tayammum and even in al-masah. So even when he's making with the dust, and even when he's doing with the wiping over the socks now. Anything? Faddal. Anything else? Okay, we'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala. And this is important, ya ikhwa. Remember, the first thing that we're going to be judged on Yawm al-Qiyamah is the salah. And there's no salah without wudu. There's no, and before salah and wudu is what? What comes before those two? Before the niyyah. لا إله إلا الله توحيد. التوحيد. حتى قال الواحد يعني كلمة عجبتني من أحد العلماء. One of the scholars said a beautiful statement. He said, فإذا عرفت أن العبادة لا تسمى عبادة إلا بالتوحيد، كما أن الصلاة لا تسمى الصلاة إلا مع الطهارة، فإذا دخل الشرك في العبادة أفسدها كالحدث إذا دخل في الطهارة. الله أكبر. He said, no, that worship cannot be called worship without tawheed. Just like prayer cannot be called prayer without purification. So if polytheism entered into your worship, it destroys it completely, just like using the bathroom would destroy your wudu. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. So when you look at that, like, this is serious. Look at the Surah Al-An'am. After Allah Ta'ala started from Ibrahim alayhi salam, and then he mentioned Ismail, mentioned all of the Anbiya in Surah Al-An'am. He mentioned all of the Anbiya and the virtues, and like كل من الصالحين كل فضلنا على العالمين. They're all for the righteous. We prefer them over creation. And then Allah Ta'ala said, وَلَوْ أَشْرَكُوا لَحَبِطَ عَنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. But if they had committed shirk, everything they did would be null and void. So when you look at this comparison that the Shaykh made of shirk into ibadah, that it spoils it. Just like hadath, just like using the bathroom, if you do that, you no longer have purification. You no longer have purification. So this is the danger of shirk. Because is there such thing as a partial wudu? Can you have part? I mean, I have a, I only use the bathroom a little bit, so I still have I have 70% of my wudu because I didn't use. No, if you use the bathroom, you have no wudu. So there's no such thing as a little bit of shirk. No such thing as a little bit of kufr. If shirk and kufr, we're talking about major shirk and kufr, enters into our ibadah, it destroys us. There's no such thing as a little bit. It destroys us. Allah Ta'ala.
Even the doubts, if you have any doubts,
Barakallah fi.
if you have any doubts, you destroy it.
No, shirk. Shirk.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Sheikh, I got two questions. If you have time.
نعم تفضل داود. نعم.
Sorry to hold it up. So I heard you mention that if anything comes out of the private parts, that's the only thing that breaks your wudu.
Mm-hmm.
Is that so? What about vomiting?
No, the al rajih that vomiting does not break your wudu.
Ah, so even if it's a
No,
lot,
even it's a lot.
what about blood?
Blood, no, blood doesn't break your wudu. The Sahaba used to pray while bleeding on the battlefield.
Ah, see, okay. See, because I was
No.
told that if you have like a if you're hurt or something, you're bleeding. If it's not running, flowing, then it's fine. But if it's flowing, you gotta make wudu over.
No.
So
I mean,
your wudu
these
is
are
not
these are aqwal. These are, of course, our virtuous scholars. May Allah Ta'ala reward them for the work and the efforts they put in, and delving into issues and possibilities and things like that. However, there's no evidence from Quran or Sunnah that if a person is bleeding, except we understand that it still has to come out the sabilain, that if a person is bleeding from their private parts, this is different.
Yeah,
Different.
okay, that's different.
Breaks the
Anything that comes
wudu.
from the private
But
parts.
anything comes from the but a bloody nose doesn't break your wudu. A bloody lip doesn't break your wudu.
A
The
cut on the
Sahaba
hand.
a cut on the hand. Probably
Okay.
the Sahaba were being hit by arrows and spears, and then they would pray what? Salat
While
al Khawf.
bleeding.
Nah, while bleeding like that. Nah. So nah.
Okay.
Nah.
So that's the first question. So alhamdulillah, I understand that now. Now the second question is you mentioned
the issue about let me back you up a little bit. The issue about vomiting is does it break the person's fast? That's we'll discuss that later. But now vomiting has an issue about the fasting. And it's strange. I mean, it may be strange for most people, but some people, I don't really want. It's kind of gross, but yeah, some people vomit on purpose while fasting and get something out of that. And this is an old issue. It's not something. Yeah. But yeah, that's where it comes. The vomiting issue comes in with fasting, not really with wudu. Nah.
I've heard it with wudu where they say if it's not more than a mouthful. Oh, that's maybe with fasting. Where they say if it's not more than a mouthful, you still have to wudu. If it's more than a mouthful, then you don't have your not wudu, but your fast is not broken.
No.
Okay. So then the second question is, when you mention it says a person, that means that he was saying about the light when making wudu. The part of your body parts will have light. So they said some of the ulama say that means you should increase in your salah because you have to have wudu for salah. Does that have anything to do with when I've been looking through books of fiqh? They mention about making wudu when you have wudu. It's like they say that the term sounds funny in English. It says it's you already have wudu, so you're making another wudu.
Tajdeed al-wudu, like renewing your wudu.
Like a refreshing of your wudu, but you already have wudu.
Nah.
So that's why. So it's permissible to do a refresh wudu even though you have wudu.
Nah.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
Yeah, it's not obligatory, but it's permissible. It's nothing to stop. There's no text to say, why are you making another wudu? This is haram. You already have a wudu. Nobody can say that. You can just make wudu. Nah.
Okay.
As long as you don't obligate it or attach a reward to it or something like that. The Prophet ﷺ didn't say, but to renew your wudu before prayer, or just to do it, and just even if you're not going to pray, then it's fine. It's fine. Even the Prophet advised with that for the person that feels nu'as, he feels drowsy in Jumu'ah, he should change his place. Then he should go renew his wudu. He didn't break his wudu. He just feels drowsy. He should renew his wudu and then come back and sit down. Nah.
And the last question. I'm sorry, I did say two. Just came on. When a person I've seen people making in the Salat al Jum'ah, and they look like they have fallen asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're in the madhahib has different understandings of if somebody falls asleep, what constitutes sleep to the point of them having to make wudu over. So,
Well, this is inshallah, we're going to get to it because there's a lot of detail to it because it's about, was he sitting or laying
was
down?
he
Was he
sitting?
leaning on
Yes.
something?
Was
Right.
he
So
flat
all,
on a surface that was
right,
strong so that
exactly.
the wind wouldn't come out of
Also,
him? Mm-hmm.
also, did he lose his not
Consciousness.
consciousness, like awareness? Did he completely lose awareness to the point that he didn't know he was there? He woke up and thought he was in his car about to have an accident or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
they said, okay, what's going on? Or did he actually, like, he's sitting up and he went into a dream? You know what I'm saying? How, and like that. So that issue, we're going to get into that when we get to that part, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah.
Nah, I don't mean to hold back on you, but it's just because it's
No.
more
Yeah. It's
nah.
more detail to it. Gotcha. I understand. Shit. Okay. I just want
But
to kind of get an idea, but yeah.
just the base rule, I'll give you the base principle. The base principle is that if a person is sitting, right, then even if he dozes off, he's not considered sleep, as long as he's not leaning up against anything. Because in reality, to actually sleep, the sleep that in it, it's possible for you have breaking you will do is going to take relaxation. Going to take relaxation. And like the narration that says that the eyes are the drawstrings to the anus. So when a person goes to sleep, what happens? Every muscle is relaxed, so they pass wind, and all of this stuff happens when they're asleep. But that happens when they actually sleep. When a person is sitting, they still have a state of awareness, and you can tell that when they start leaning, they pull themselves back up. They start leaning, they pull themselves back up, even if their eyes are closed. But if they start leaning against something, then that is what is supporting them, and they're not supporting themselves by their awareness. When a person's not leaning and they begin dozing and they snatch themselves back up, their awareness is what's holding them up. But when they actually lean against something, then that's it. That's considered is still caught. So they're actually
is that like their back, like what their
laying
back
back,
is against the wall?
back, side. Yeah, see, all of that counts. All of that counts as basically having the support. Now, but we'll go into that. Is the back being against the wall while up, or does he have to be leaning back when he's doing it?
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
No,
Okay.
Okay, Sheikh, one more question. Can we shorten our prayers in these situations?
What situation?
Like passing of the wind is becoming necessary, or we should hold.
You mean the person is praying and he feels pressure of having to pass wind?
Yes.
No, he should salam. He should salam out and go. If he's in jama'ah, the Prophet instructed the person that has that issue, if he has to go to the bathroom or leave the prayer for a reason, he holds his nose and then leaves out of the ranks so that people won't be suspicious about it.
I never knew that. So you hold your nose.
Yeah, you hold your nose and then you walk out of the prayer, giving the indication of why you're leaving. And then you leave out of the prayer like that, so people won't be suspicious. Because the Muslims, alhamdulillah, on the instruction of the Prophet ﷺ, used to watch people's behavior when it came to salat, it came to zakat, and these affairs were affairs, especially the prayer and the zakat, were affairs that exposed the hypocrites. Now, okay, no, I'm leaving up the prayer for a reason. I'm not, of those who just pray to be seen by the men, and as soon as they make the takbir, I slide out, and you have to remember that Umar radiallahu anhu was killed while praying. Now, leading the Muslims in Salah, yeah. So we're allowed to really relax, and if we really were to study the behavior and the reasons behind the behavior of the Sahaba, we will be more meticulous, more diligent, more security minded. Things like what happened, and may Allah protect us. I mean, things like what happened in Australia to the Muslims, the guy walking in with the gun. We have to be more aware. The reason this is not a mihrab, this ditch that many masajid have begun to build into the walls in front of where the Imam prays. That was started by Uthman radiallahu anhu after the assassination of Umar radiallahu anhu, so that the Imam, so nobody can stand right behind the Imam and actually be able to do something to him. So the Imam, that ditch began being built in order for the Imam to stand in a place of safety, so that whoever may have tried to attack him would be able to be caught before he did it. Because that Majusi, what did he do? He stabbed how many? 11 people? He went through the front row, stabbing people that could probably protect Umar. Anhu, and then after that, he turned the knife on Umar. And then after that, when he was grabbed, he turned the knife on himself. But
I thought it was 14.
The people, yeah, nah. I'm not sure. I don't remember the exact number. I bet. But the people were right behind the Imam. So the Sunnah of the Prophet said, "Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnati al-khulafa ar-rashidin al-mahdiyyin min ba'di." He said, "Follow my Sunnah and the Sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa after me." So this was right here was for the Imam to step away in case somebody tried to harm him. That's what that. But a mihrab, a real mihrab, is actually a room. It's a room for ibadah. Nah, nah. What are you going to say? What was it? The sleeping. Okay, mashallah, mashallah. Okay.
What if you just forget that you made wudu or something? You should just make wudu again, right?
I see. This is a good point. And Brother Musafa said, "What if you forget?" I'm going to let somebody else try to answer that. So, what if you forget that you made wudu? What should you do?
Can't recall you're in wudu. If you can't recall you broke the wudu, you're in wudu.
If you say if you forget that you made wudu, or
Close.
you can't recall if you had.
Hold on. We have a young brother here about with his hand up. Brother Taklor, he gave it kind of. Uh-huh. Mm.
That's like technically.
No. Yeah. Listen, I missed Fajr in Jama'ah one morning just like that. I was making wudu. I was on my way to the masjid. I woke up doing this.
You see, you woke up what?
I woke up wiping my arm. I was making wudu. I woke up wiping my arm up to the elbow. I was like, I'm about to go mix it up. And then I heard banging, do. And I'm steady making wudu. I'm on my next arm. And I woke up wiping up my arm. And it's my daughter banging on the Abby, as-salat. Like, wake up for the prayer. I'm like, I was wiping my arm in my sleep. I was making wudu.
You was making wudu
no,
in your sleep.
in my sleep, I thought I was,
And you were having a dream.
I was having a dream that I was on my way to making wudu in order to go to the masjid. Yep. Yeah.
Woke up.
And I woke up
in the middle of wiping your arm.
Nah. So no, sleep wouldn't count. Nothing you do in sleep count. The pen is lifted on the sleeping person. So nothing good is counted for him and nothing bad is counted against the person that whatever he does in his sleep. So what happens? You forgot. It's a garbage. It's just like a precision, like a point that has to be made in both cases of forgetfulness. Huh? What happens if you forget? Or somebody wrote something. Okay. Sister Vekera said, you have to offer wudu. Anybody else? What if you forget? You saying you forget you like, did I make wudu or not? Huh?
Oh, that's what I
you
want
don't
to
have
ask.
to make
Is
wudu.
it the clarification is are you asking if you forgot to make wudu and you remember while you were praying, or you're not sure if you still
you're
have
not
wudu?
sure if you have wudu. That's what he's saying. You're not sure if you have it.
Oh, if you forgot
in
you got
wudu.
wudu, then you don't got. You're in wudu.
So Abad said you're in wudu. Who else says that?
I say you're in wudu too.
Says you're in wudu. Taklur. Brother Taklur said. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, so
I was gonna say I'm in wudu too. I would go with that.
Okay, so Musafir says the same thing. The ulama have a قاعدة من قاعدة الفقهية وترجي الأمور لليقين فلا يزيل شك لليقين. So the affairs are always turned to certainty, so doubt cannot remove certainty. So if you are sure that you had wudu and unsure that you broke it, then you have wudu. That's what you were trying to say now. And if you are sure that you broke your wudu and unsure that you made it, then you don't have wudu. No. So that's how that principle goes. Not certainty. Whatever you were certain about before your doubt. If you were certain, it's like, I made wudu, I just prayed Lord, went to the store, came back. I talked to my Umi, and I came like that. I don't remember. I didn't go to the bathroom. I didn't. And you're still in wudu. And you say, Dag, I came out of the bathroom, that before or after the salah? I remember going in the bathroom, came out of the bathroom. You don't have wudu. You do not have wudu. Because
Oh, so that's
yeah,
how it goes.
that's
See, the
how it
other
goes.
day I had this issue because I went to the
Mhm,
bathroom. Then I was when I stepped out the bathroom, I was playing with my kids between that, and then I
mhm,
went to go pray. But after salah, asked my wife, I said, "Did I make wudu in the bathroom?"
mhm.
When I went to the bathroom, now I know I went to the bathroom, but I wasn't sure if I made wudu when I was in the bathroom.
Nah.
So,
So
so at
because
that
of
point,
that,
I know for sure that I used the bathroom, so I should have went and made wudu and
exactly, you
prayed.
should have made wudu. You should have made wudu. We're gonna take a last question from the sister. Nah.
I know. Can someone just put their socks on and then just wipe over the socks instead of washing their feet?
The feet have to be washed first with wudu, not cleaning the feet, but washing the feet as in wudu has to be done first, and then when the Prophet ﷺ was brought water in order to make wudu, and then the Sahabi tried to remove his socks, he said, "No, I washed these before I put these on," and he washed his feet first, and then after that. So the person has to be in a state of wudu, and then wear the socks in that state in order to wipe over the socks.
Or you can't just go ahead and, while you're doing the, instead of washing the feet, just.
No. No. Barakallah feek. Nah. And we have to advise our brother. This is important because the people's prayers are going to be rejected. It was somebody somebody took and made their own interpretation of wiping, and they were actually in the bathroom at Masjid Furqan, wiping over their sweater. It was wintertime, and they were wiping over the sleeves of their sweater. It's like, subhanallah. And they like, okay, no, I'm wiping. No, you can't wipe over your sleeves. You have to pull your sleeves up and wipe them. So that's only for the socks. And some ulama also made the ta'wil that is also for whatever the head covering. So meaning that person doesn't have to remove his turban or he doesn't have to remove his kufi. He can actually wipe over the kufi. But they said the only reason that is the case with a head covering, even a woman can wipe over her khimar. They said the only reason that's the case is because the sun, fil ras al-masah, because the head is only wiped anyway. But anything that is washed has to be washed first. The head is the only thing that's only wiped. Whether something is on it or not, it's only wiped. So it can be whatever's on the head can be wiped over. Now that's the position of some of the ulama. So now we'll stop here.
Even for men, I'm sorry, Sheikh. I'm sorry.
Nah, inshallah, even for men.
So if I have like
but men have to
Scully
be
at
careful.
work.
No, Dawood, listen. What the men have to be careful of is sometimes the men wear turbans that cover that covers the forehead. So now when he's wiping his face, he doesn't wipe his whole face. Remember, the face has to be wiped from the headline to the chin, from the hairline to the chin, and from both earlobes, from the both ends of both earlobes. So if a person has a turban on and he has it wrapped in which is coming down and covering his forehead, so he can wipe over his turban for as the head, but what happens to his face, he's not wiping his whole face. So he's making his wudu invalid by not wiping his face. He has to wipe his whole face. So he looks nice and looks cool and everything like that, mashallah. But he has to pull that turban up. And he has to rewrap it. If it gets out of place, he has to rewrap it. Nah.
And got it. Okay. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
okay.
yeah. Bless Allah Ta'ala to grant us sincere intentions, beneficial knowledge, and righteous actions according to the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Okay, we have a young brother has a question. If you see the Kaaba in your dream, Allahu A'lam. But inshallah, the Prophet ﷺ said, from the last parts of Revelation is the truthful dream of the believer. It's the truthful dream of the believer. So inshallah, if someone sees the Kaaba in his dream, it's a glad tidings that he's going to see the Kaaba while he's awake one day. Inshallah. Aina. Inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. ما شاء الله.